Hello and welcome to another episode of Awaken, Heal and Transform with your host, me, Francesca Rapper. Today, I'm very excited because we're going to be joined by Brooke. She was a previous client of mine this year that journeyed through my 3-month container from fear to feminine freedom. And actually, this was her idea to come on the podcast, which I was so excited she reached out to me to do. She really has set herself her own challenge to share her voice more. And from our work together that we did this month in the 3 months, we really worked on moving from a heart-led space. So what that means is cultivating self-love and dropping into surrender. And so that is what we're going to be speaking about today with Brooke and her journey into surrendering and leading from the heart, as well as self-love, because she has just now qualified as a self-love coach. And I am so excited to reunite with Brooke in today's call. So let's get into it and welcome Brooke. Hi, Brooke. Welcome to the Awaken, Heal and Transform podcast. I'm so excited to have you. I know this was your idea and I think it's absolutely brilliant. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I just did like a very brief sort of introduction to our connection, but obviously we connected earlier on in May this year, and you attended the 3-month container of mine from fear to feminine freedom. And you have been on such a beautiful journey, which has been so exciting to, one, be a part of, but also see where it's taken you and where you are now, which is what we're going to get into today. So I'm just going to, hand this to you and just hear a little bit about this year, because I feel like it's been such a transformational year for you and so many, like 2022. So tell us a little bit about your awakening moment, which was like, I need change.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. Yeah, I mean, as you said, it has been such a year of transformation, and looking back from where I was at the start of the year to now, it's just completely mind-blowing at how much transformation has happened. And yeah, I mean, as you said, we worked together in May, and before that point, I had been living this life that to me looked like my dream life, that I'd always wanted to travel, and I'm originally from Australia. So I'd been living in London, working, traveling every couple of months, had this amazing partner. To everyone on the outside, it looked like I had this dream life. But to me, I just always felt like there was something really missing. And I just became really unhappy. And it wasn't with any specific point in my life because everything was great. But for whatever reason internally, I just felt really low, and I knew I couldn't carry on like that. And I felt like I'd started to develop this kind of social anxiety around talking to people and putting myself out there and developing friendships and connections. And it was by that point that I just became so frustrated, and I just drew the line and I went, no, something has to change, which is when I found you. And yeah, up until that point, I'd kind of just been going through the motions. I hadn't actually, like, I'd done a lot of healing work in the past, but that had been probably about 4 years ago. And then once I'd done that massive transformational work, I kind of went, okay, I've gotten to this point where I've healed and that's it. But as we know, healing is not linear and it's ongoing. And I think because I had then ignored it for a few years, everything had bubbled up to the surface and was just like, no, you need to deal with this now.
Yeah. And what was the real biting point that made you recognize that everything had built up? Was it like, were you feeling it in your body? Because obviously we worked in a body-based format, right, with feminine embodiment coaching. So what kind of drew you to that? Was there this tension in the body that you could feel? What was your biting point?
Absolutely. For me, I was almost numb, as in I had so much going on in my head and I was so out of tune with my body, but I knew something wasn't right. I felt very stagnant. I felt very numb. And it was like I couldn't even feel anything. Like I couldn't feel joy properly. I couldn't feel sadness properly. It's like I was just, stagnant. And for me, that was a real wake up moment going, hang on, there's something more here that I can feel, and I know that, but I don't know how to get there. And that was, the big wake up call.
Yeah, that is such a, the numbness, like something I can so relate to, and I bet so many people can as well. Like, you don't know whether you're coming or going, and the overwhelm of it all, of wanting to be somewhere but not knowing how to get there, and not really knowing why as well. And I think that's the main thing. It's like we forget the importance of our why, which kind of leads me on to where your journey was figuring out your why, and how you were able to reconnect to your heart space to help you to understand your why.
Absolutely. And that was such a big thing. I had no idea what my why was, and I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know anything other than that. And I was so stuck. And I thought, when I came to you, I had so many different problems. I had all these issues that I needed to work out, and there was so many things wrong with me. And it turned out I just wasn't listening to my heart. And there was so much transformation in actually allowing myself to listen to my heart and to feel my feelings, because I was so numb. I wasn't letting anything come out. And to be able to reconnect with that and allow my heart and my brain to work in conjunction with each other rather than against each other was such a pivotal moment in finding out my why, and figuring out what it was that I was put here to do and what my purpose is.
Yeah, and that's really a lot of the work. It's like moving from the constriction of the mind to the expansion of the heart. The mind has limitations, whereas the heart is infinite, and it's so clear when we reconnect to that space. It's almost like suddenly what we thought was impossible can actually become possible, which is what journey you went through. So tell us a little bit about like the challenges within that, like having to reframe this way of being, from being numb to actually starting to go, okay, I need to feel here. Like, how was that for you, that challenge? Was there any challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big challenge, to be honest, because I had ignored my heart for so long, and I thought I was a very logical person, and that was the way I needed to be because that's what I was conditioned to be. But for me, it was allowing my heart to take over, and allowing trust within myself, and knowing that my heart was always right. It could never be wrong. And for me, I had definitely a lot of resistance allowing that to happen. And I know I'd often come into our sessions or do practices where I'd be like, okay, I just want to talk this out. But when we got into it and I was actually listening to my heart, the answers were right there. And I had some mind-blowing moments where I'd had all of these questions and thought I had all of these problems. And then the second that I really tuned into my heart and I was able to hear that, it was as clear as day. And what I needed to do was so simple, but it was just that allowing of my heart to take the lead.
And there's one thing that I wanted to share that I will never forget, and a statement that I really want to quote from you because I love it, was when you shared on our last session, I was a control freak with no control.
Yeah, it's so
true. Talk us through that, because this is one of the things that sticks with me with you, and I love that quote.
Absolutely. Yeah, honestly, that was my biggest realization, was that when we started our containers together, I was a control freak, and I was trying to micromanage every single part of my life, the way I felt, the way I acted, the way I spoke, the way, I showed up in everyday life, the way I ate. Like, every single part of my life was so micromanaged, but it wasn't working, and it wasn't giving me the control that I was looking for. So even though I was doing all of those things, if I didn't stick to that, I would then be beating myself up about it. And what I realized with that is, because I wasn't allowing any room for flow and any room for going with what I actually desired, I had no grasp on anything, but I thought I did. So it was a very big moment to realize that even though I thought I had all this control, actually I didn't. And that's why I was so blocked. And looking back on that now, that's why I was so blocked in figuring out what it was that I wanted to do or everything else, because I was trying to control things and trying to make them happen on my logical timeline rather than trusting that they're all happening as it meant to be.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I know you shared before this call around the surrendering that takes. And often people don't really understand what it means when someone says, oh, you just need to surrender. Like, we hear that a lot and people throw it around, but like, what is the process of the surrendering? What is it that it looks like to come into the feminine rest state of going, yeah, there is a deep rooted trust that I know that it's all happening for me? Where do you feel like that moment hit where you were like, oh, this is what surrender feels like?
Yeah, I think it was definitely towards the end of our container together. And for me, I was a bit like you just described. I could never understand the whole surrendering thing, because I went, well, you've got to work for what you've got, and you have to work, and everything is hard. And that was a narrative that I had replaying in my head, that I had to work hard for everything. And what I became to realize is the things that were meant for me came so easily and so naturally and at the exact right moments. And this came with surrendering. And when I say surrendering, it's not that I was just sitting back and letting everything happen and that was it. It was, I was doing the work, but once I'd done everything I could, it's then about sitting back and trusting that that is going to come to you when it needs to. And that happened with so many different things. Like towards the end of our container, I was getting a promotion at work. I was moving into a new place after living in a really big share house. My partner and I were moving into our own place in London. And there were lots of different things that were happening because I was at a point where I was ready to have them. And even though I had tried to control having them earlier, I wasn't in a place where I would have been able to accept them and deal with them at that point. So by doing the work and then surrendering and going, okay, I've done everything I can, and manifesting it, the power is huge. But we don't realize that it comes to us when we need it to.
Absolutely.
Not when we want it to logically.
Yeah, and what you were sharing there was coming to you at the right time, and it was the work that you had done to allow space. And I think a lot of this is about space, isn't it? Acknowledging where we're at and sitting with the tension that we actually do feel, and not shaming ourselves, and actually really being honest if something doesn't feel right, or if we feel like, yeah, I'm not where I want to be, instead of going, oh, I feel shame in feeling that, like, actually, I'm going to let that take up space so that it no longer sits at the bottom of everything I do. And then when you create that space, you can then fill it in with what's really in your heart around the trusting of what is meant for you. And that's exactly what, like, the progression that we saw when we would sit in sessions together is like, we sit there with the space of what's really happening, whether it's in the mind, it's somewhere there in our bodies, it's there. And when you feel into that, you can start noticing the sensations, can't you? Like where it's resting, where it's sitting, and letting that take up space to find out what the deeper thread is beneath all of that, what is really sitting there, and going, oh, okay, I hear you. Because a lot of the times our bodies just have the physical sensations for us to see them as alarms, to actually go, okay, I can actually see this and use this as a trigger to find out what's really going on. And it's only when we are able to acknowledge that and give it space that we can then what's the word when it's like diffusing, like it's like it slowly dissolves, and then there's space for filling it then with the desired intention from a place of true desire, like a place of real why, right? Your why. And I remember we were, in a lot of our sessions, you're like, I want to be a self-love coach and I want to help people. We did a session specifically around why, wasn't it? like what your why was for that. So yeah, share with us that journey as well, from like discovering that you wanted to become a self-love coach. Like, what was the moment there that made you realize that, and what was your why?
Yeah, great question. I'd always known that I wanted to help people in some aspect, but I had never been able to pinpoint in what capacity. Like, I'd always considered things like teaching, social work, youth work, counseling. Like, there were so many different things that I had considered, but I had never considered coaching, it was almost like there was some resistance there, because coaching was something that had changed my life and has done since, since I started coaching, working with different coaches. And during our time together, it was like a light bulb where it was like, this is what I need to be doing, because I have been helped so much by coaches in my past, and having that space held for me has been so powerful that I feel that I've got the capacity to do that for other people. And the journey that I've been on, I want other people to have the transformations that I've had, because it is so possible. But often we just need someone there shining that light for us and holding that space for us that we don't often give ourselves. And the fact that I was able to come to that realization in our container was just incredible, because I had no idea how to get there, and it all just fell into my lap. Like, during our container, the course came up, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's what I have to do. And self-love was not even something that I had really considered much about or anything else, but there's so many different things within self-love that I learned about and I was able to embody, because that all came back to me listening to my heart and me allowing myself to have that space and get rid of what didn't need to be in my body. And that was the thing that I realized I was holding so much in my body that I wasn't allowing out, and that's why I felt so numb. So the fact that we were able to really delve into the practice of allowing myself to feel it and let it out, and there's just so much power in that should be taught as we grow up, but it's the complete opposite. And that's what I've come to realize, and that's why I want to be able to help other people and hold that space for people, because it's so important and it's so beneficial to us.
Yeah, beautiful. I love what you shared there around self-love, of coming back to the heart, and how that really defined your journey. Because and I love how it just came like that, and it should just come to us. It's like, that's when you know it's coming from your heart instead of the head, where we can sit and force and say, oh well, I'm going to do this and I want to do that. But when we really tap into the heart, a lot of the stuff that we say that we want to do doesn't necessarily come from our heart. It comes from what we may have seen. It's influenced in some way, and we think, oh well, that works for them, maybe it's going to work for me. And then if you create something from that space, it's never going to feel very authentic to you, and it's definitely not going to be heart-led. And so there's a lack of passion then that comes with that, and a feeling that you're never doing enough, because it's coming from a space that there necessarily wasn't your heart's desire in the first place. So the importance of coming back to heart for not just our own well-being, but to be able to lead from that place, which is the most authentic to who we are, isn't it? Like, that's so tell us more on this self-love journey then, because now I want to hear everything about that and what you learned there, and what is a self-love coach?
Yeah, so I mean, it has been a journey in the self-love coaching academy that I've done, and to be honest, it's been a huge just roller coaster of everything. But at the end of the day, it's made me realize that I'm 100% where I need to be on the path that I'm on, because as you said, that the passion that's come with this is just unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Like, during the course, we had the opportunity to hold space for different people to practice and to be able to really develop our skills. And honestly, the the shifts that I saw in those sessions from those women that I was helping, and not even helping, but holding the space for, was just amazing. Because, as women, we go through and we hold so much space for other people, but we often forget to hold that for ourselves, and we often don't give ourselves the permission to sit there and be heard, and to have ourselves witnessed and in what we are, and to have that deep love and understanding that we all need, but don't get. And yeah, so self-love coaching has been, incredible. And it's all about how we hold ourselves and allowing ourselves to feel it all, not just the good stuff, but to feel everything. And that's been such a lesson during my coaching, is the power of letting ourselves feel things. And that was definitely something that was a light bulb moment with you as well. And that's something that I use daily now, is when anything is coming up at all, is to allow myself the time to feel it, process it. And that's when it releases from our body, is not allowing it to sit there. And music is such a big thing, like big part of my life, and that's something that I've really incorporated into my coaching. Is if someone's feeling something, whether that be angry, sadness, grief, happiness, inspiration, whatever it is, to put music on that is going to bring that out, and to really expand on those feelings, and to just allow yourself to sit in it and feel it. And whether that's punching a pillow, whether that's screaming into a pillow, whether that's crying, whether that is dancing around and jumping for joy, whatever it is, allowing yourself to really feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. I love the incorporation of music. Like sometimes I'll put some emotive music on just to cry, and just sit there in that sensation of crying and feeling, and letting the music hold me, because I feel like that's also a holder when you're on your own and you're working through some of this on your own. Because as you were mentioning, like, coaching is incredible when you are being witnessed and you're being held by another, and that's something that I feel on a very deep level we all yearn for. Is these containers where we can just get to be fully held and listened to. And ultimately it's always the other person, the client, always doing the work themselves, but it's the accountability and the witnessing and the holding that they get, that they receive, that makes them, it gives them the encouragement and the empowerment. And it's a reflection, it's constantly a reflection of what they're capable of, and reminding them of their own potential, and dropping that in every single day. Because like you mentioned before, it's like, we're not taught this stuff. Like, we're not taught to be held. We're taught in a way that promotes independent living, not community-based. And a lot of my journey has been around that as well, of like, you've got to do it on your own. No one else is going to help you. Nobody, question people's motives or intentions. And it's been very deep rooted in distrusting others, actually, because you feel like they're going to take something from you. And this is very much instilled from a young age, which is competition. And then you see that play out in work situations as well. So this is what our society teaches us. And so coming back to self-love, when we're taught that love is outside of us, I mean, that in itself is a whole reframing and having to relearn, I suppose. Was that a big part of what you had to do as well? Was it like a relearning for the self-love? And what did that look like? What were some of your practices that you put in place?
Yeah, it was huge. And you said it perfectly, is learning that it's all within us, and that we don't need it externally. I mean, it's nice to have, but it's not something we need as long as we've got it within inside of us. And it's teaching ourselves that everything we have is inside of us. All of the answers, all of the love, all of the care, everything is there if we allow ourselves to feel it. And it's the reprogramming ourselves to actually feel it, and to make it okay. Because we have been taught that there's so much external validation that we need, and we almost forget how to trust ourselves, and how to listen to ourselves, and how to hold ourselves. And it often comes back to treating ourselves like a child in what a child needs, and giving ourselves that love and that nurturing, and yeah, allowing ourselves to feel everything. Because often if we're seeking that external validation, we're never going to get what we need, because what we need is within inside of us, and we need to grow that first before we get it elsewhere. And that's been such a big lesson in this. And also the power of community as well, which is something you touched on, and that has been such an important part of this coaching journey, is because it has been a group program with 7 incredible other women who I've been doing this with. And I had a lot of sisterhood wounds I didn't even realize. And, I was so independent and everything else. And I'd never wanted to really do coaching group programs or anything like that, because I didn't think I'd get any benefit from it. And it's been huge. I mean, the fact that we've all been going through it together, and we're just able to be there and witness each other, and in no judgment, in no competition, in no comparison. It's just allowing each other to be seen and to be heard, and to hold each other in that is absolutely remarkable. And it's really built on the fact that community is so strong, and it's something that is so important, because that's what they used to do, back in the tribe days, where everyone would stand around the fire. And we've lost that over time, because it's just been so conditioned that we need to be independent. But there's so much beauty and power in leaning on other people, and allowing yourself to be held in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Community, like we heal in community. It's something I always say, that we can do so much work in our own 4 walls, but if we're not out there in the world and actually in front of others and connecting, it's like, how much is that healing integrated? Yeah, just I'm so excited for you and the journey that you've been on, and where it's going to take you, all as one step unfolds at a time, in this beautiful space of surrendering, that you are now able to really just hold the trust in yourself to then see it play out in fruition. And I think when it comes to community and being able to trust others, and sisterhood wounds, and all of these kind of things that I absolutely love, that there's such an entanglement between it all, but really it comes down to what you're saying about self again, isn't it? Like the ability to trust ourselves so that we can trust others, and it all happens within self first. So yeah, I totally just love all of the shares around self-love, and it's definitely something that should be taught more of. It should be in schools. I don't want to keep saying the should word, but it's so important when we have self-love, for the ability to see where we can go and what we can create and do. So with that then, like what is it that you've got coming up? Like, what are you birthing?
Yes. So I am, at the moment, I've got one-to-one spaces open, where I'm taking women on a 3-month container, where we look at where they are now and where it is that they want to be. And we're really working on how they can get there through the power of self-love, through the power of healing, and being able to see that transformation over time, and really being able to learn to trust themselves. So that's something that's happening at the moment, and I'm holding some beautiful women through this journey, and being able to really allow them to trust themselves, and hold that space for them, and to see the different areas that's impacting on their lives. And it's just absolutely amazing. So that's something that's happening at the moment. I've just come out of the course, and just absolutely buzzing to be able to hold some incredible people in that container and in that space.
Yay! It's like a little dream that is now fully blooming in its full expression, and there's so much magic that is going to spill from this as you really step into all of it. So that's so exciting, and I'm gonna put all of your details in for people to connect with you, and all that self-love jazz.
Oh, the self-love.
Yes. So is there any words of wisdom you want to leave us all with?
I would say that self-love is the key to everything, and there's so much that is possible with self-love if we allow ourselves to have it. And I could talk for hours about how believing in myself is so powerful, and just holding myself in so much compassion, and what that does for me, and what that does for all different parts of my life, and the impact that that's had. And if you can't get there on your own, I just would say to anyone and everyone, please allow yourself to have the space held for you, because there is just so much power in it, and we all deserve it, and we all deserve to live the life that we want to live, and be able to see what's possible. And it is the best thing you can ever do for yourself, is to just allow it and allow yourself to have it.
Beautiful, beautifully said and shared. Thank you so much. I love what you're saying around, if you can't hold that space for yourself, allow someone to hold it for you, because there is such a difference. And I'm sure, when you're doing the work and you are holding yourself, when I'm doing the work and I'm holding myself, there is still nothing that compares to when someone is holding me. It's an undescribable feeling, and a big part of my own journey as well that has taken me to allow others to hold me. This is a big part of why I love holding for others. And usually when we do things, it's because we want it for ourselves as well, or it's do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of why we show up in a certain way, because it's something that we're so deeply wanting and yearning for ourselves. And when somebody else is able to witness you, and just you're in your fullest, you're in your heart, and you're just pouring yourself, and you're cracking open, and someone's there holding you going, it's okay. Yeah. And then it's like, it's okay. You're like, it's like that. You open your eyes, like, really, it's okay? And it is, it's okay. And it's human, and it is okay. We are so complex as the beings that we are, and sometimes it's even difficult to express through words what we're feeling, which is why explaining it through body sensations sometimes is easier, because it doesn't even have to make sense to the person holding you, but it's just to the point that someone's witnessing you and all that you're going through, and gives you permission to continue. Because I sometimes find on our own, and what I've heard, like, what people struggle with is when they do it on their own, it's so easy to get distracted.
Yes.
Because you're not used to giving yourself the space, and it's easy to think about, I've got to put the washing on, or I've got to do that in the house, because naturally our mind is designed to for survival. So it's kind of like, we'll get out of that, the pain, that's too painful, I don't want to face that. And you do find these distractions. So when you're in spaces and containers like that, it just kind of creates that safety to go, okay, I'm here, I'm showing up, because I'm here to feel all of it. And that's what's so powerful, isn't it? So thank you so much for sharing the difference in that, from holding space for self and holding space in a container. And that's very, very powerful.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited, and I'm delighted for you as well, both. It's just, it's been such a pleasure to know you and be with you, and now get to witness the ongoing journey that you're embarking on. So thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you so much. And for allowing me to be able to come to these realizations, and the space that you held for me. And it was just absolutely incredible. And the mind-blowing moments that I had during our containers together was just incredible. And so thank you for all that you do as well. And it's just so powerful, and it's so needed in the world.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.